On this channel, you'll possibly know that I'm quite into the Line 6 stuff, the Helix, the HX Stomp, the Podgo, all of this stuff. This is what I use day in, day out. I'm also quite partial to the fractal stuff. That's really cool stuff. But I think it's fair to say that there's one kind of player in this space which I think don't get quite as much love as maybe they should. You can let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. But I think it's Boss, and Boss have been part of this modelling stuff for as long as Line 6 have. I think they came out around the same time with modelling pedals. At the same time, Line 6 came out with a modelling amp. The Axis was the name of that thing at the time. Now, what you get with Boss stuff, I think, is quite a lot of features, but a lot of it is, you know, relatively simple compared to other devices in terms of what might be available. So you don't have like 10 cloud reverbs or anything like that, or a multitude of plate effects, or even many amps. There's 20 amp models in here, and as far as I can tell, nothing for bass, which is, you know, slightly strange and maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity. But, you know, like with Boss effects pedals, you know what you're getting with those. You get good functional stuff with tweakable parameters that are kind of useful in real life. You know, like a Boss Blues driver is not going to blow anyone's hair back, or a Boss OD3. They're not hugely expensive pedals, but they're good stuff, right? Good usable stuff. And I think the Boss GX100 is the Boss device that has sort of made me re-look at what Boss are doing. I was quite sniffy about the GT1000 core. I thought some of that stuff was a little bit kind of half-baked for the era that it came out in. You know, not having a fully flexible signal chain in some ways is a little bit limited compared to, say, Fractal or Helix. Although it wasn't limited in terms of power, it's just user interface choices. Whereas in the GX100, they've lifted those limits, so you could put as many delays in there as you want to before you run out of DSP. You know, you can have dual amps in there, you can do all sorts of stuff, multiple reverbs. They've kind of lifted the lid in a way that they hadn't done with the GT1000 and GT1000 core up to this point. There are a few things that you don't get in the GX100 that you do in the GT1000, things like the metronome, other elements. I'm sure there are plenty of them, but the GX100 is, you know, considerably cheaper than the GT1000, and I think about roughly the same sort of price as the GT1000 core, but you obviously get much more flexible switching and stuff. Talking of flexible switching, yes, you can use the assign matrix and you can switch all sorts of stuff on the actual switches themselves and assign multiple things to the switches, as well as like bypass, or you could change parameters with them. So you can do something like snapshots from the Helix world, but it's not quite as easy to set up, in my opinion. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's not as easy to kind of blend modes. So that's my experience, although I've not spent as much time with it. But say like in Fractal, you can skip between layouts to your heart's content. You get a lot of use out of 3 switches on the Fractal FM3, for example. These switches are kind of not quite as flexible, would be what I would say. I think that's the case, but you can do plenty with it. One of the things that I think that Boss have done, which is slightly different to some of the other manufacturers, they've not necessarily gone, this is based on X, you know, so there's quite a few amp models in there that are not really based on any one real life amp model, which is, I don't think it's a negative thing at all, but I'm not also sure that it gets people to do direct comparisons as much, you know, because there's nothing that's directly comparable in the real world. And similarly, some of the kind of parameters that you have on amps and all that sort of stuff aren't on the real life amp, so it doesn't necessarily all make, you know, it's not like for like, and it's not that easy to figure out what you would do to do a like for like comparison. Say for instance, when your parameters go up to 120, you know, there's a little bit of math involved to try and work out where it would be halfway on the dial. Little things like that, which I think maybe is part of the reason that you don't see as much kind of video stuff made with Boss stuff either. And maybe they don't have as big a community. One of the cool things about the Boss that I thought I was going to show you today was that there's Bluetooth that you could connect your phone with via an app, but you actually need an additional adapter for that, which I don't have. But that would have been cool to show you because there's not that many devices that can actually connect and edit with an app or editor, but you know, not today, obviously. So let me just run you through this preset. I'm in manual mode at the moment, so you hold this in, you can get to the tuner, or if you hold it in for longer, you can switch different presets within this bank, or you press it and you can get to this like pedal mode, right? So in the heat of battle, I feel like that's a slightly slow switch, and I'm not sure how well that would do. But then we press effects, we can come in here, and this is my effects chain at the moment, just in case, Stuart, you wanted to replicate it. I'm using the tube screamer here with the drive at 89, tone at +18, level at 50, and you can see there's other features there that wouldn't be on the real pedal, but that's useful to have, like bottom. Then I'm using the OD Blues, which is drive at 33, tone at +6, level at 50. Then one other thing that happens with this OD Blues is that I've got an additional switch here, the 4, which turns on the PEQ, which is using a gate, a high cut at 4 kHz. So when I press this button with the OD Blues engaged, I turn on the EQ, and also the drive jumps up to 66. I can show you how that happens. So you see here, we've got manual 4, toggle overdrive, parameter drive. The minimum value is 33, the max is 66. That's what's changing there. The other thing you can do with this though, which is quite clever, you can change effects type. And there's nothing else that can do this in the world, I don't think. So you could have minimum Blues OD and max be, I don't know, a turbo OD, for example. And you'd see that when you press this button here, 4, you turn the same kind of chain, but you've changed from a turbo OD to a blues driver. Now that's really clever, I think. So that's one of those really cool features, in my opinion. And you see, you know, I've obviously assigned that PEQ to that switch. I don't know, can you do that with amps as well? Let me see. So if I press Control 4, I have to press this to turn it on. I can change the amp type as well with this switch. So let me just come back off of this preset. So we're now back on JC Twin as it was. So what I think I'm going to do, yeah, that's quite clever, isn't it? Let's be honest. So if I go to the assign page, so we go Control EP, and I'm going to turn off these manual 4 assignments and create a new one for manual 4. Where are you? And we'll toggle the preamp type, preamp 1, and I'm going to turn it on. It's going to change the type, so we can change amp type even. So we're going to change from, at the moment we're going to have the twin combo. We're going to change to the boogie combo, right? Let's see what this does. So you see now that says amp type change. So that's kind of like channel switching within Fractal World. And that's not seamless, but this one is. So the other thing you could do is you've got this divider and you can have a different amp down here. By default, that's kind of what happens. It's kind of... Anyway, so let me just take you back and I'll show you how I built this preset again. We've got the amp is the twin combo, gain at 50, level at 50, bass at 50, mid at 50, treble at 50, presence at 2, bright switch off, sag at +4, speaker type original, and the mic type condenser 87. This is another thing that they've improved from the Boss GT1000, where the speaker settings were kind of hidden from the user in a lot of ways, unless you put it into recording mode. Mic distance short, mic position center, and the condenser type. So that's that. I've shown you that already. Then I'm using the Terra Echo here, and once again, if we go into the control elements, the trigger on here is effectively like a freeze pedal. So if I turn this on, you get this kind of thing. So you hear there's a freeze. You set this up in assign settings. Here we are, sorry. Expression 1, Terra Echo, trigger. I set that up to be controlled by the expression pedal, right? So off is heel, on is toe. Pretty clever, really easy to set up. That's the Terra Echo. And go further into effects. I've got the Space Echo here. That's pretty cool to have that kind of algorithm in there. Settings, as you see, direct out, we've got high cut, we've got mod rate, mod depth, all this stuff, wow and flutter, all the stuff that you'd have on the actual Space Echo type pedals. And what else have we got? Stay on effects. Is that everything? A reverb plate. And you see there the settings are time 6.4, effect level 45, density 10, and yeah, all that stuff. And what else have we got? Then on this second amp here, I just brought up the level, I think. Yeah, the level by 20, so that I've got like a boost with the same kind of tone. So if I needed a boost on my clean tone, and equally, like you've seen from here, one of the things that frustrates me slightly is that you can see like some of this stuff is happening beneath the screen in a way, because you're in this effects view. You have to kind of press exit to get back to your main view. I guess it's just a user interface thing though, which is a bit different to what I'm used to. It does have like a nice kind of low end response as well, like there's a good feel to a lot of this stuff. So for sure, there's loads that you can do with this thing, and if you go into menu, you can see there's other elements as well, which are something you probably want to read the manual about if you want to get really into some of this stuff. You know, there are lots of different options and lots of features. Right, just lots of stuff. So, as well as, I think, where's our input mode? Over here, in-out settings. You can set up kind of input sensitivity presets, so kind of per guitar. You know, in case you wanted to balance your for, you know, I wanted things to sound roughly similar with a Les Paul to a Strat, and you could then kind of just change each of these so that you had one with, you know, a pad essentially, pad all the way down to 20 dB, or push it by 20 dB. So that's quite a useful feature which is not shared with many other devices. You've got global EQ, which you can turn on or off like that. It's definitely handy. What else have we got? Output settings, output select. So we've got line phones, these sorts of things, sort of baked in EQ profiles, I guess. But yeah, I think, let me know in the comments if you think this is this case. Like, there's clearly this interface I feel is better than anything they've done before. I think there's still like a little bit that could be better, right? It's like not necessarily totally seamless or anything. But it's a step in the right direction, I think. You've got this kind of view here, which I don't hate. I think that's pretty useful. And, you know, if you came to adding in effects and stuff like this, it's relatively straightforward. Having not spent loads of time with it, I feel like I roughly know what I'm doing with the thing. I think there are some cool tones in there. It's fairly rewarding, as I say, I think, to play clean tones with an OD. I would say that maybe sounds like a little bit on the compressed side for a preset that doesn't have a compressor in it, but you know, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are Boss multi-effects, their modeling stuff, are they underrated? And do you have a thought for why that might be? Do you think they're capable of better tones than we tend to see out of them on the internet? Or is that kind of the limiting factor? I'd love to know your thoughts. Catch you in another video soon. Cheers.